enabled me in today's presentation to go back and look at all the details, pull it apart, and actually re-evaluate everything we've done and kind of the story that happened along the way. So although it looks in our heads kind of like this, a series of junctions, I think that more often than not it's more like this. It's kind of a wobbly road. And although I'm here to talk about how a small company made big change happen, it's more accurate to say that this is really a story about how a small company, some individuals, and a number of other companies helped make some big change happen. So it's not one company. In fact, the story ends with about 3 or 4 companies rather than one. I want to start with one of my very earliest Facebook updates. This Facebook update I left on the 11th of December 2007, and I realise you can't probably read it in the room, but it says, Aren Grimshaw is not wanting to run a company or be self-employed anymore and would welcome a job offer right now. So this is 4 years ago, and this is for me where the story begins. Now, when I posted this Facebook update, I was actually sitting in my office after running a company, a consultancy on my own, for about 3 years. And anyone who's kind of run their own business knows that kind of if you can get through 3 years, then everything's going to be fine from there. But it was literally coming up to that 3-year window. And actually, it had been a really hard slog. I had 2 very young children, and it had kind of been a day-to-day struggle. I was making money, but not enough to really support my family or kind of reach the goals that I wanted to reach. So I started looking for some kind of new inspiration. So I picked up all the typical books, Think and Grow Rich, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you know, the kind of style of book that I was looking for. But amongst all these books was a book called Uknetweb, which at the time was a relatively new book, and for me this introduced an entirely new concept to business. But for me, rather than inspiring me to continue with the business, this was actually the dead end. This was the final nail in the coffin for me. And what I decided was actually the business that I was running, which was a traditional marketing consultancy. We did PR, we did kind of call centre operations, that kind of stuff, was on its way out. And what I needed to do is move with the times and look at how mass collaboration and digital technologies would change the world. So actually it was quite a new kind of paradigm for me. And it was a time where I had to kind of think about my map of the world and what I was going to do next. Now, the small company that I actually got brought along here to talk about is this one, and this is a company called Uknetweb. Now, at the time of me posting that initial Facebook update, Uknetweb was a relatively successful web development agency. It had about 3 full-time developers, including their managing director. They were turning over about £90,000 a year. They've been going since 1999, so they've been going for 8, 9 years. So they were established, but there has been no kind of massive growth for quite some time now. And at the time when we posted that Facebook update, Uknetweb was just 100 yards across a car park and over a fence away from me. So basically, I'd come into contact with the managing director, Toby Parkins, when out networking. And from kind of talking to him, he'd become one of my clients, and we'd started to work together, and we'd started to look at how we might grow this company. And so I made an offer to Toby that if he would take me on, he could pay me a very small wage, which would be equivalent to my consultancy fees over the year, and I would join him full-time and give him my full-time focus on his business. And luckily for me, he accepted. And so actually I joined that company, and this believe it or not, I really was one of the most useless people with computers. I had the slowest computer all the time I grew up. I never had the internet until, I don't know, 2002, 2003. It just didn't come naturally to me. So Toby gave me that first introduction. So when we started working on all these things together, we went through that potted history, that story. So what happens is you sit down with the client and you say, come on, tell me how you got to where you are today. And so we went through the story, and he established it in 1999, out of a hobby business. He'd loved computers, he was a maths teacher, friends and family, he'd started to build websites for them. And so as a result, one thing had led to another, and he'd ended up running a business building websites. And that was kind of the story. But then what you do as a consultant is you try to kind of question that, and you try to observe, and you try to actually get to grips with the minute day-to-day detail of the business. And what you're looking for as a consultant is the bright spots. So everyone looks at kind of the problems, the issues, the things that need to be fixed, but not always do we look at the kind of brighter aspects of the business, what's already working. And in amongst all of the kind of day-to-day activity, there are these bright spots, these glimmers of something hidden, some new potential within this business. And Nokia Spin was one of the earlier campaigns he'd done. So this was one of the very early mobile site, 2006, for Nokia. And he'd done a couple of e-commerce builds where there'd been fantastic returns of investment for clients. He'd done a couple of world firsts for some of his clients. He built strange database systems that were revolutionary. Yet the website, if I go back to that slide, was marketing websites in a box. Yeah. And so what you were basically looking at was a bunch of pictures of websites. And actually everybody in Cornwall was a web developer. Falmouth University was kicking out web developers at a rate of kind of 3 a day. And so as a result, kind of differentiating ourselves on design and pictures of websites, when actually it was a technically focused team, was not a very strong proposition. So what we needed to do is we needed to reposition ourselves in the market. We needed to be seen as an innovative company. And luckily for me, just after joining, we got this opportunity to present to the Cornwall Chamber of Commerce. And the presentation we were doing was a presentation on e-commerce 2008 and beyond. So what we did is we used this as our opportunity to research the entire market, all the innovations that could be coming, all the innovations that were already occurring, and to try and explain to businesses just what the potential could be over the next few years. And actually the process of doing the presentation alone revealed all these opportunities that were coming, and not only just positioned us in the market, but also gave us all these new ideas for how we could grow the business. And this presentation, before we even delivered it, I thought, okay, let's whack it up online. It's not going to hurt, we can stick it online before we even get there. And so we presented, Toby himself presented, the managing director, to about 100 businesses in the room. But before we'd even gone into the room, we'd had 65 views online, which doesn't sound much now. I mean, it's had 15,000 now since 2007, and most of it since 2008. And most of those predictions have come true now. And by the time we'd left the presentation, there was now 180 views, and it just continued to grow from there. So we saw that we could suddenly get a lot more reach, a lot more exposure for the same ideas by just repurposing them. But to be innovative, it's not doing one thing, it's doing a series of different things. One building on the last, and all building up to one kind of bigger idea. So what we did is, the first one's a foundation, then we had to kind of think about how we could develop this, how we can add more ideas. And I think with innovations, it's very easy to look at the first bounce of the ball, but not necessarily to look at the second. So everyone kind of sees where everyone else is heading, and so they run after that. When actually what you need to be looking at is where that ball's going to bounce, and then kind of where it could go off from there. So we did some pretty crazy things, to be honest. The first thing we did is obviously look at the brand, we looked at how we're going to reach it. At the time, when I joined the company, the tagline was this web developer was websites that work. Not a very revolutionary idea. I haven't found anyone yet that goes to a web developer and says, I'll tell you what I want a website that doesn't work. So I took that out, and I said, actually, what we're about is maximising potential and minimising risk. And interestingly, loads of people came to me and said, risk? Why are you introducing the idea of risk into the business? But at the time, all of the kind of security issues and everything with e-commerce, people stealing credit cards, it was a major factor. So we launched that new brand at a virtual party, and this is a news story about that virtual party. So what we did is we had this strange bit of kind of chat room software, and it seems so kind of archaic and out of date now, where basically people could log in and they could chat to other guests, and they could even play their own music. So, working in a development company, everyone likes heavy metal, so what they did was they just patched this music player with a bulk load of heavy metal, and people were rocking out in their own offices enjoying this party. But the conversation is the most benign conversation I think I've ever seen from a party, because it focused on the fact that there wasn't any real champagne or there was no real cakes at this party. And so although it was kind of a success and that we got generated buzz, it wasn't really what we wanted to be doing, it wasn't the right positioning for us. But the technology had worked. So we looked at how we could repurpose the technology. So we used that exact same technology again and launched something called the Insight Sessions. And what we did is we brought in people we felt had a story to tell to businesses, or information that was of value to businesses, and allowed them to speak openly to our room. So what we did was we got in Lord Teverson, who's an economist, and this is just as the recession was beginning to take hold, but it hadn't actually been declared. And he came in and talked about how the recession would affect businesses. And so we became this kind of conduit to information that was of value to businesses, again, about maximising potential and minimising risk in business, reinforcing that same idea. So we did a series of things like that, and then we wanted to kind of link it back to what we were actually doing. So the next sessions, we started to do real-life workshops on areas such as social media, and we were one of the first to start running those. We started to do e-commerce, we started to do legal affairs, search engine optimisation as workshops. And believe it or not, we had people sending national brands, international brands, sending their staff on 14-hour round trips from the north of the country to come down for a 3-hour session and then pop back up country. And so that guy said, well, actually, maybe we shouldn't be doing this, because actually what we're doing is we're encouraging people to drive 7 hours down here to this session. Maybe we should stick it online and see what happens. So we delivered the workshops online, and we started to get people then from all over the world logging on and watching these presentations. So that's again, using this amazing Facebook timeline, the new one. This is one of those early webinars. Again, being a technical company and developers, they're not happy with us just switching a webcam on and sitting at a laptop. You know, we've got to have some crazy lighting system set up. We've got to have mission control in front of us through computers. We've got to have projector screens projecting what everybody's saying behind us. So kind of an over-technical solution, but it worked. But then things got a bit awkward. Because actually, was it achieving the results we were